Just when I thought this show couldn't get any weirder, this episode happens, and it blew it all away in the shitstorm sweepstakes. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So this episode deals with a series of flashbacks that basically fills the audience in as to what happened in between the end of Season 2 and the beginning of Season 3. As it turns out, unfortunately, Chucky did not kill Tiffany. Her life was spared when the cops busted in and arrested her for murder. And here I thought we might not have to endure another season of Jennifer Tilly's over-the-top cringe acting. But we can't be that lucky, I guess.
Chucky took her.
A good chunk of this episode involves Tiffany or Jennifer Tilly's murder trial, which feels like it only really exists just so the show can give us a series of exposition dumps, and basically trying to fill the audience in on this convoluted mess of a story. The plan, apparently, is to get Tiffany off by using an insanity plea, which is probably appropriate. So Tiffany rattles off her entire history with Chucky in the middle of a courtroom, and basically what it comes down to is her lawyer proclaiming that Jennifer Tilly method acted her way into insanity.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
And they even managed to make a reference to Austin Butler's lingering Elvis accent. Because you know this show can't go 1 week without some random modern pop culture reference. During the trial, everyone from the trio to Nika testifies against Tiffany, with Lexi even bringing up, while she's on the stand, Tiffany's deranged fashion sense. Seriously, who writes this shit?
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Eventually, Tiffany is convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection. And that moment, my friends, cannot come soon enough. The other part of this episode involves the whereabouts of Chucky and Caroline after last season. And after they randomly kill Kenan Thompson with an umbrella, we have quite possibly some of the strangest occurrences to ever happen in this show, and that's saying a lot for a series like this.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber.
The first moment that had me questioning the will to live while watching this episode involved a confrontation between Chucky and the character who should have been the lead character in this show, Andy. So we have this sequence where Chucky sneaks into Andy's apartment and knocks him out, and when Andy wakes up, he's laying in bed and Chucky is sitting on top of him with a knife. And after Chucky proclaims that Andy is his Moby dickhead, he then delivers one of the most suspect lines I think I've ever heard in any form of media ever to exist. While Chucky is sitting on top of Andy, he says it's just like old times, and it feels kind of kinky.
Excuse me, the f*** did you just say?
Considering a majority of these old times that Chucky is speaking of involves him stalking and trying to kill Andy when he was a child, saying this interaction between them is kind of kinky because of old times does feel like a very questionable piece of dialogue. Chucky eventually ends up brutally stabbing Andy, but I guess it was all a dream, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know, it's not really clear, and I don't really care either. Eventually, Chucky comes to the conclusion that he is aging. And this is a concept that probably could have been interesting if it were in the hands of capable writers. Instead, what we get is a series of gags about it, including an entire conversation between Caroline and Chucky about his crow's feet.
I'm too old for this.
And then we have the other most head-scratching scene in this episode, and that involves Chucky going to the doctors. This show has been very inconsistent when it comes to clearly stating whether or not people know who Chucky is or not. Some people say things like his exploits precede him, and they don't really seem all too fazed by a talking doll. And yet some people seem to be shocked by his existence, or flat out oblivious to it.
That makes sense.
But the doctor he visits is very nonchalant about it, and doesn't seem all that bothered by a talking doll on his table complaining about aging. In fact, it's pretty much business as usual for this doctor, and he just gives Chucky a physical. The doctor even somehow has the answer to Chucky's problem.
Why?
I have to be honest, this scene really didn't feel real to me. In fact, it felt very random and out of place. Apparently, they come to the conclusion that Chucky can no longer switch to other vessels, and only a top-secret, unconfirmed ritual from the Crusades might be able to save him from dying permanently. So he needs to go to an evil place and sacrifice 6 people. But the Amityville house isn't evil enough. So that's when Chucky decides to go to the White House. The place that, in Chucky's words, is the most evil because, quote, millions of people have died because of the decisions made behind those walls.
Message!
In case you haven't figured it out, that's Don Mancini inserting himself into this story and speaking through Chucky. I get it, Chucky is Don Mancini's creation, but let's be honest, has Chucky really been consistent as a character under his watch, especially during this show? It really doesn't feel like it. We then see how Henry finds the Chucky doll, and all of our questions have been answered.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
We know why Chucky is in the White House, we know why he wants to kill 6 people, but the real question is, do any of us care? I know some people may, but I sure don't. The most frustrating thing about this series is that there are ideas contained within it that could be interesting, but they just consistently underutilize those ideas and undermine them by turning the whole story into this goofball, cringe comedy special.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker.
And outside of those kills, which I already mentioned feel like nothing more than a formality at this point, what part of this show is actually horrific? In fact, why is it even being released in October? Just put it on in the summer so people won't accidentally turn it on in October, thinking they are going to see a slasher-based television show. Because that's not what this is. What it is a running joke that's not funny. A painfully uninteresting skit that never really hits the mark. I tried to give this series the benefit of the doubt at the start of this season. I wanted to give it an opportunity to impress me. But it's clear to me now that nothing has really changed, and all they are really doing is further devaluing the once proud name of Chucky. Hello? Hello? Okay. What the f... No, wait. You don't have to do this. No, wait, please, don't! No, 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 no!
Y'all be cool. Right on.